Good morning. Melisa Nielsen with Waldorf Essentials. The topic today is, but it's not Waldorf, which I think is a funny topic. It's actually something that comes up a lot. We have a lot of families that come to us and say, I want to do this and I want to do that, but I know that's not Waldorf. And I want to stop you first, and I want to affirm what is Waldorf. So what is Waldorf is actually pretty simple. And so many things can fold into this. So I want you to remember this when you start to say bad things to yourself about, oh, it's not Waldorf, or I can't do this because it's just not Waldorf. So I want you to remember these things. Waldorf is age-appropriate material at the right time and lively lessons. That's it. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of other underpinnings that go into it, but when you start to judge everything that maybe your child is interested in, or you want to bring to your child, or your family does for fun, all of those things, when you have all of those things coming up and you start to judge them and go, oh, but it's not Waldorf, then you want to be really, really careful about, what you're saying to yourself. Because here's the thing. Waldorf is an amazing, amazing method of education, and it's one that doesn't have to be in this box. So let's talk about examples. So it was on a group the other day, and a mom had said, somebody was asking a question about, violence in sporting events. And while most is probably too much, many Waldorf families do not enjoy sporting events the way maybe a more mainstream family does. That doesn't mean it's not Waldorf. The part that isn't Waldorf is when you have a 5-year-old and you're pushing them into competition. That's the part that's not Waldorf. But if you're enjoying a game as a family and that's part of your family culture, then it's absolutely Waldorf. In fact, Steiner said something about, and I'm going to mess it up, so I'm not going to even try to quote it, but he said that if it's part of your family culture, and he said he was talking about religion at the time, like if this is part of your religious practice, of course you wouldn't stop doing it, just because it's not Waldorf or not the right time for whatever it was that you were bringing to your child, but you would do it because it's your family culture. So if it's part of your family culture to watch football on Sundays or hockey on Tuesdays, great. That's part of your family culture, and you should continue to do that, even if you don't think that that's Waldorf. In fact, I should say, one of our Thinking, Feeling, Willing members is the wife of a pro football player. So there's nothing about it not being Waldorf. What the parts that aren't is when we're pushing young children. So another thing that somebody might say is, and we actually had this, our middle son was way into BMX. He loved riding his bike. He loved competing, and he was about 9 or 10, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was over 9. He was over 9, and it was good for him. He was very melancholy. That's how he was showing up at the time. Very melancholy with a hint of sanguine, and now he's sort of flipped, more sanguine than melancholy. But that was what he loved to do. So as a family, that was our culture. We showed up for him. We did those things for him. So beyond like extracurricular activities that people might say, oh, that's not Waldorf. What about if your child is like way into something and they're really excited about it and they want to dive deep, but they're too young, or by Waldorf standards they would be too young. So I would say first explore what it is. Are we talking quantum physics? Are we talking, heart surgery? Or are we talking just a child that really loves Egypt? So I think that you have to sort of weigh out what it is that they're really loving and look at where they are age-wise. And are they, do they have enough skills to go deep? I think the thing that that's most important is to realize that as they grow, their intellect grows. So the intellect of an 8-year-old that's, say, really, really, really into studying the space program is not going to be the same as a 14-year-old or a 15-year-old that's really into studying the space program. So I think it's very important that while you might give them a variety of things to read about, say, the space program, they're going to take it much differently when they're younger than they will when they're older. And so you want to also keep in mind, okay, well, we've covered this now. They're really excited about it now. I probably still need to cover it when it's the right time. I remember when my oldest, he was all about Egypt. And there were those books that they have, you can see at Barnes & Noble sometimes, it's like Egyptology or something like that. And then there's ones that they have on dragons, and so it's more like folklore than it would be anything else. I mean, yeah, there's some great tidbits in there and bits of information, and it looks like it's a dive deep kind of book, but it's more of a commercial kind of book about it was about the pyramids, and it was about mummies, but it wasn't actually about the different time periods in Egypt. It wasn't actually about like the depth, and he was all over it. And I could have said, oh wait, you're not ready yet, but I just sort of let him do it because he had a love for it at the time. He was in 4th grade, and I knew we were going to study it in 5th grade. And what ended up happening is he had a great time with it in 4th grade, but I made it not a lesson. So I think that that's really important. When you have a child that's really into something, don't dive in and go, oh, well, we're going to learn everything about it and make it a lesson. Let them have their own pace at it, because sometimes what happens, I've been this overzealous mom. Sometimes what happens is we go, oh, they're so excited about it. Let's get everything about Egypt at the library. I've totally been that mom. Excuse me, but it wasn't about Egypt. It was about something else. So he really wanted it and really was into it. So I sort of let him do his thing. I let him have fun with it. He was a budding reader. He had struggled, a bit, and so he was really excited about it. He was wanting to read. So I was like, sure, of course you can. Devour this book. Have a good time. And then what happened when we actually did Egypt in school was he was like, whoa, there's so much more here than I understood. Because that book, that thing that he was devouring, was not the totality of it. And so then we were able to really go deep when it was time. And so I want you to feel like when you're looking at, planning for next year, bring in the things that your kids love. But don't go all crazy and make it a lesson. You can make it maybe a short lesson, but don't go all crazy, because what tends to happen when we become that mom that's like overzealous about something, like, oh my gosh, they're finally excited about something, I have to like do it to death. What it tends to happen is that then they get sick of it. So don't do that to yourself. Instead, let them be open about it. Let them pick resources about it that they want. Let them have fun and be in that space of being excited about something. And you don't have to have a lot to do with it. You can say, hey, do you want to do some lessons on this? Most kids will probably say, no, Mom, that's okay. Don't go, oh, we're going to get a lesson book, and don't do that, because you don't want to, unless they prompt you, because you don't want to, like I said, get overzealous about it and then have them, it will kill their desire. So just let it unfold. And, if it's not in the timeline of where they are with lessons, what I generally tend to do is I look at, when are we going to actually cover this topic? And if it's something that we're like never going to cover, well, not never, but it's not part of the curriculum, so it would be something that I was excited about and pulled in. If it's something like that, then we'll absolutely dive into it. If it's something that maybe they're going to cover in the next lesson block, or it's something that is definitely age-appropriate material, I will absolutely, kicked the tripod. I'll absolutely jump in and we'll do some lessons about it, but only if it's from their excited space. I want to be really careful, and I think that this is definitely in line with what Steiner would have said, because he said we're not teaching college level course. We're not giving them all of the information about botany in 5th grade. We're just giving them those foundations to grow. And that goes for all of the lesson blocks, because what we want is when they're done with school, we want them to have their appetites whetted for several things, so they can then go deep about things that they're really excited about. And that's what they tend to study in college or study more of afterwards, whether it be college or trade school or even just a career that they go towards. So helping them to sort of develop that space is really what we're looking for. It's really what our aim is here. So we're not like looking to go in crazy amounts, like, college level class. I always try to remind myself, especially when we're in high school, doing high school stuff, I want to give them the information that is, definitely, yes, this covers it, but I always keep in the back of my head, am I offering, is this a 101 college class? Because it's not. That's what you want to keep in mind. And then if you have a child that you figure might not go to college because maybe their interests are sort of outside that, and what they want to do, there is no college for, this is more experiential, then you might go a little bit deeper with that child. But if you know that child's like, yes, I've been wanting to go to Stanford since I was 6 years old, then I would leave some space for those college level teachers even to go deeper. So just sort of keep those things in mind when you are planning those lesson blocks. Do we have any questions or comments or anything over there?
No.
Don't want to go too fast. So I was trying to think other things that we get the It's Not Waldorf about. There's definitely the iconic things of Waldorf, the wooden toys and the fluff stuff. But I also want to encourage those of you who have dads, and maybe you too. I was thinking dads with He-Man collections or Star Wars collections, but maybe you got a strawberry shortcake collection that you really like. And there's something from your childhood that you really want to bring to your child. I think what's really important is that, especially in this time that we live, pop culture is just part of life. Many of us grew up in the 70s, and some of you the 80s, and I'm really old, so some of you in the 90s too. And so I know that there are things that maybe have been iconic to your childhood that you are really excited to share with your kids because it was something that made you excited and happy as a child. And so you want to bring that to your child too. And I think that that's okay. We did a video a few weeks ago on Star Wars because I know that's a huge topic. And so we did this video a few weeks ago on that and sort of when to bring things in movie-wise and story-wise. But when it comes to, say, your husband's collection or your collection of toys that you've been hanging on to, just let your kids play with them. Do you know you don't actually have to explain everything that's going on or what each of the figures mean? You can just give them to your children to play with. Excuse me. And if it's something that's really important, like if you've got vintage Star Wars, of course you want to sit there with them. Or old He-Man figures or anything like that was something that excited you. You want to not just go, hey, just go take them off. You want to be careful with them, and you want to help them show respect because what we appreciate. So we want to make sure that we sort of show them respect, show those things respect. But I think that when we are in this box of, oh, but that's not Waldorf, then we rob ourselves joy and our children possible joy too. So we want to be really careful with that. We want to be careful with the this idea that we have to be in this little Waldorf box, because I tell you what, if you're in that box, it's a really small box, and you're gonna rub your shoulders and bump up against it, and that's not what Steiner intended. Steiner intended that you live life and that you bring life into what you're doing, and sort of Waldorf is a state of mind. And when you start getting to the place that it's a state of mind, rather than it's boxes that you have to check off or things have to look a certain way, then you can relax and it becomes a way of living and a way of life rather than something that is just for school and you're constantly worrying about, is this appropriate or can we be doing this, rather than just sort of asking yourself, where does this fit in right now? And you can do that in a way that is not stressful for yourself. Just asking yourself, where does this fit right now? Or, hey, this is okay. Dad wants to enjoy this time with my child, and I want to see them have fun together. And it's okay that it's He-Man, or it's okay that it's Star Wars. It's okay, because that doesn't take away from this other piece over here. I think we really spend a lot of time, at least I see a lot of them spending a lot of time, and I was there a long time ago, of being in this place of really judging everything with the wrong lenses. If we're judging everything with this Waldorf lens, then we're going to be stuck in this space. And I would definitely say I'm a Waldorf purist a purist when it comes to what Steiner actually said and the curriculum. I'm definitely not a Waldorf cultural purist, because when it comes to that Waldorf culture, oftentimes families do not realize that what actually goes on in a Waldorf teacher's home is much different than what you think. And I remember we were doing some filming years ago for a teacher, and it never ended up going anywhere, but it was really funny because when Eric was filming her, she was really stressed out because her TV was in the background, and I was like, it's all right that you have a television. Like, actually, that might help people see that you have a television. Maybe then they won't be so stressed out all the time. Definitely we're in the space of wanting media to be controlled and not have it take over our lives. But just the fact that you have a TV is not a horrible thing. You can just breathe deep. It's okay, and it will make people actually think you're more real than what they think you are. And I think that it's really important that we realize that those teachers are human beings too. They have the exact same struggles that you have, and maybe not all the same, but they definitely struggle. We have a lot of teachers in our Thinking, Feeling, Willing program, and that's okay, because I love them all, and they all come to learn something different. And so I want you to realize that it doesn't have to be this crazy thing where you have to have perfect pictures all the time for Instagram, or you have to have this perfect space. Just live your best life and enjoy yourself and have a good time with this curriculum, and stop stressing about whether or not it's Waldorf. Just dive in there and ask yourself, is this meeting my child the way I need it to, or the way they need it to is more important? And so yes, you want to make sure you're doing prayer and meditation for your children. That's probably the most important thing. When you're homeschooling, not just with Waldorf, but with anything, that you are doing regular prayer and meditation about the children you are teaching, because guess what? God knows them better than you do. Whatever noun you put on that source knows them better than you do. And so you want to make sure that you're in that space of meditating on them on a regular basis, so that you are giving them, bringing to them, presenting them, feeding them exactly what they need. And the beautiful thing about that is it's sort of this relationship of you sort of ignite something, and then because they have everything in them, I truly believe this, that we have everything in us when we're born. It's just about unlocking it and drawing it forth at the right time. And that's really what Waldorf does. We draw it forth at the right time. And so you want to really be attuned to that. You want to be in a place where you are, continually seeking guidance about your child, and not guidance from the internet. Spiritual guidance. So before you hop on Facebook and ask that question, before you pose that question to your friends, ask source first, and sort of be in that space of really looking for guidance for your child. So I think that's pretty much it. I can't think of anything else. If you come up with something that falls into this category of but it's not Waldorf, please drop me a note. Drop me a DM if you're on Instagram, if you've got questions. If you're on Facebook, drop me a PM. I'm totally happy to answer questions, or to even have some suggestions for future videos. You all, and hope that you have a beautiful week. That's my prayer for you, that you have a beautiful, awesome week. Bye.